Arsenal are arguably in the most dominant period of any Premier League side in very many years. Not only are they easily winning, they are thrashing teams left, right and centre, and this has meant them back in the title race. But it's not just luck. Let's have a look at the key reasons why Arsenal are so dominant right now and why they can continue it to the end of the season. Let's get into it. Now, I wasn't going to do another video about the dominance of Arsenal, but I saw some in-depth tactics about the game, specifically against Sheffield United, and I thought it was really interesting, and how we actually control games is getting better every single week. And quite frankly, no matter what happens at the end of the season, I've had enough of people talking down about Arsenal. Arsenal deserve the credit they are getting and deserve even more. They are playing better than any other team has done in years. Even when Manchester City were dominating the league for years, it wasn't at this sort of level. And I know it's only been 7 games, but that is still a large enough sample size to really take this team into account. And it's not just come in against a certain opponent. Arsenal have beaten every single team around different parts of the league now in this 7-game run. They've beaten Newcastle, who are a progressive side, very good, top 8 side in the UK, and have also beaten teams like Liverpool, who are obviously one of the best teams in the country, but also demolishing teams such as Burnley and Sheffield, who are near the bottom. So they clearly have a system that works in place against all these different sides to work in order to basically thrash them all. And this isn't to do with luck, this isn't to do with individual plays, this is purposely down to the tactics that Mikel Arteta has put in the team. From front to back, Arsenal are the most complete and the best side in the UK, in the Premier League right now. And although this may not transpire into a league title because there's still a long way to go, it's still good to acknowledge how good they are playing right now and why they are so good. Teams like Liverpool and Manchester City might also be winning, but it's nowhere near as convincing as a team like Arsenal are right now. This isn't just about the Sheffield United game, this is about the 7 games they have played in the Premier League since they've been back, because they've been dominant in every single game. In all the 7 games, they have somehow only conceded up to 10 shots on target throughout them all, being as high as 3 for Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest when they first came back, and since then they've only conceded 4 in 5 games, with Sheffield United obviously getting 0. Now, it's not just about the shots on target, it's about how much they're controlling games. The XG for every single team in this period has been less than 0.5, less than half a chance of potentially scoring a goal in the football game. And against teams such as West Ham, Burnley and Newcastle and Sheffield United, it has been as low as 0.16 and as high as 0.31, showing an immense control in the game that we have never seen before. And this matters because they are obviously keeping the ball so much, and this is why the teams are struggling to actually create a lot. And they're having the positive possession in every game, they're actually having the ball a lot and making it matter. Now, bigger teams like Newcastle and Liverpool have managed to get around 40% possession and have the ball a little bit more, but smaller teams such as Sheffield United and Burnley are struggling, getting around 20% to 35%. And even middle impact teams such as Crystal Palaces, your Forests, your West Hams are getting around the 30% mark as well. So it seems to be working against all these different opponents. And now you could definitely put some games down to maybe teams having bad games, but in my opinion it's mostly because Arsenal are making them have bad games. The same against Liverpool. Liverpool didn't perform on the day, but I think Arsenal overly tactically beat them and they couldn't really get much on the ball in the first place. And this is something Arteta clearly thinks about. He is changing the team every single week out there, and it seems to be having the same results every single time. Now, maybe the starting 11 has sort of similarly stayed the same, but obviously we have seen different variations of Trossard come in and Jorginho. The actual tactics on the pitch are all about dominance, and he understands who he's playing against and what they're going to try and do, and keeps getting the better of them in manners where they physically can't lose the game, and Arsenal ended up going to have create loads of chances and not concede many against their goal. First thing that really helps Arsenal have more control is the fact they are very compact and very close together. Now, this is something that Xavi Alonso also does for Bayer Leverkusen, and that's why they are so dominant. And Arsenal have had problems in the past, especially this season, where there was a few gaps that were a bit open with players running forward and not keeping the same positions, and this often led them quite easily to get broke on. Now, against Sheffield United, as you can see, this was the average positions of all the players. It's very compact, there's a lot of passes going between all of them, and there's often not many mistakes going to be in there. When you have players so close together, this really helps, because if someone is to lose a ball or lose a duel, more importantly, it's often not going to be hard for other players to cover in that area when they're so close. And players that are less mobile, like Jorginho, will benefit in a position like this, because not only is he very good under pressure and can pass the ball away to someone close to him, he can also help players in front of him if they lose the ball, or if he loses it himself, he knows his defenders are there to cover, and it's not too much of an ask for them to go and get it, because if that gap is there, then they can break upon the defenders, and then we're running back and it's a problem. Arsenal also, as you can see, nearly every single player is in the half of the other team. This shows how much dominant they are, and they're penning teams back with all their players. And they've also got some of the same principles of Kivior and White going in certain positions to help the attack. But Arsenal aren't just doing this one thing, they're playing in so many different ways, as you can see by their average pass position against Newcastle, for example. In the midfield, it's not as compact, and it's more compact on the left and right wings with people helping the different progressions in them situations. This will be different depending on who they're playing against, because Newcastle kind of flooded that midfield centre with their 3 players in there and kind of had few of their fullbacks a bit unmarked, only had 1 player out there. This meant usually Odegaard will come down that side to overlap, and Arsenal had a lot of success on the wings in this game. And Havertz is pushing the lines, trying to be on the last defender a bit more than he was against Sheffield. And against West Ham, where they don't think they're going to get pressed as intensely, they have Trossard come on, who actually plays as another false nine with Havertz, keeping them more pressure in that way and keeping them more players that want to run the lines. Now, as you can see, Saka is majority the guy that's the furthest forward and the main outlet of getting the ball forward for the team. Now, the point of this is always to get Arsenal in their 3-2-5 system when they're trying to attack, and they want to get their 5 players, whoever it is, to be in that line attacking wise. This is because when someone like Saka gets in behind, being the main outlet, being the furthest forward, they often have different runners every time. As you saw against Sheffield, they have Odegaard, Rice and Martinelli in this example, and all 3 of them do different movements. One goes near post, one goes outside, one comes to the edge, and they do this a lot where they all make different runs inside in different games. We saw the same against West Ham, where Trossard would come a bit outside, Havertz would go into the middle and would have someone just on the edge of the box, and this is what makes it so unpredictable. They got all these runners in all these different ways. This all happens because of the setup they have. For example, against Sheffield United, you can see here that they did their 2-3-5 system, but it's so far up the pitch that most of the 5 going forward are actually in the box for attack. Now, because this is so fluid, sometimes you get Odegaard coming to the midfield for the 3, but sometimes it could be even Ben White or Declan Rice, and Odegaard would move into that front 5, or maybe even Kivior on the left side. Having all these players so far up the pitch is so impressive. All 10 outfield players are right before the goal, and all of them can make passes, and there's going to find space because the Sheffield team are usually penned in their box. I mean, in this example, you can see the space that Jorginho and Kivior and Martinelli can have in their positions, because when you've penned the teams this far back, the centre-backs aren't going to come out and start pressing the midfield. They need to sit in their positions, so this actually makes it just so good. And when you can create some space and some great play down the wing by Martinelli or Kivior or Saka and White, then it actually leaves a lot of people open. As we saw with the 5th goal against Sheffield United, they all made different movements. Havertz back post, Martinelli comes into the middle and Rice peels off, which eventually the pass comes to him and he scores. All these positions just seem so natural for all these players to have, and because you've got so many players pressing and pushing the team back, these options are there available, and even people like Rice are getting in the middle. Now, I think this is the key reason why Arsenal are dominating games, but let me know in the comments what you think and why you think this is working so well, or what your opinions are on this Arsenal team and their potential chances. If you like this video, I recommend going to watch my video specifically on Kivior, where I go through his performances yesterday, and if not, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.